Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today I thought it'd be fun to do a reading vlog. So I recently got some books for Mother's Day. I got 2 books and I'll just show you both, even though I'm not reading both. But this made me think about how my physical TBR has been getting larger and I haven't been finishing or reading the books that I've been buying lately, which I don't really buy books that often, to be completely honest. Only like my birthday, my anniversary, Christmas, Mother's Day this year. You know, those are times when I get books, but other than that, I don't buy books hardly ever. So I just thought it would be fun to do a little physical TBR video. So I picked 3 books for this video off my physical TBR. I think I only actually have 6 total. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. I only have 6 books on my bookshelf that I haven't read. In general, a lot of them I read a long time ago. Oh wait, actually that's not true. I haven't read the Maze Runner series, so that's another 4. I don't know why I don't count that. I've had those forever and I've never read them. Let me know if you think I should read the Maze Runner. Never read them. But I thought today would be fun to just do 3, and then maybe I'll do another vlog another time where we'll finish up the other ones. But I did also get The Grapes of Wrath. I have read this. This was my favorite book of last year, and I like this edition. It has this type of flap, I don't know what it's called, has some deckled edges, which I actually don't always love deckled edges. I love the way they look, but it does make it more difficult to flip through the pages. But I'm really glad that I own this now. I have been on a journey to read every Steinbeck since last year. The end of last year I decided this, so my journey has consisted of The Grapes of Wrath and East of Eden. But because I loved this book so much, I was like, I should buy that one because I really, really loved it. So that was one book I got for Mother's Day. And then the other one that I got was a new release, and that's The Antidote by Karen Russell. You might remember, if you've been around, that this is one of my most anticipated books of the year. So I do hope that it goes really well. It's bookended by 2 real weather events that happened within months of each other in western Nebraska. The Black Sunday dust storm of 1935 and the flooding of the Republican River, which received 24 inches of rain within 24 hours. That's an insane amount of rain. Okay, so this book is about a prairie witch. Wow, that is a hard thing to say. Prairie witch who excels in the exile of memory and who calls herself the Antidote, having discovered her bleak magic at the age of 15 when her baby was stolen from her at a home for unwed mothers. So it takes place during the Dust Bowl. Seems like there's a little bit of perhaps magic or strangeness, and I'm looking forward to it. I've heard that it's really good, so that's one of the books I want to read for this vlog. The other 2 I have had for an embarrassing amount of time. This is An Immense World by Ed Yong. This has been sitting on my nightstand since January because I got it. My husband bought it for me on our anniversary trip, and I read 46 pages of it. I loved those 46 pages, and then I just didn't pick it up again. My problem with my physical TBR, this is why I have this issue, is because books come through on my Libby. Sorry, my hair is doing such weird things right now, and I'm seeing myself in the viewfinder, and I'm like, whoa, your hair looks insane. What was I saying? Oh, Libby. I read like 95% of my things on my phone on Libby. That's just what's easiest for me in this stage of life as a mom to young kids. That's just like the easiest thing for me to do, right? And so then I'm like, okay, well, I have this book, which I own, but then I've got this book on Libby that I have to read within 14 days or whatever. So I read that one because I'm like, there's a due date. So that's the point of this video, is to make a due date for myself to actually finish this, because I loved the 46 pages I read of this book. So I need to finish reading it. So that's the second book I want to read. The last book, I think I got this for my birthday. I did. I got this for my birthday last year. So I've had this since August, and it's Devotions by Mary Oliver. Poetry collection. This is the first poetry collection I've ever owned, and I actually am about halfway through it. let's see, I'm 192 pages in, and there's 442. So, and then obviously like poetry is pretty easy to read. You see I have some tabs because there's been some that have just like really stood out to me. So I wanted to tab them, and the tabs mean different things. So I even remember, oh yeah, I wrote it down. Good thing I wrote it down because I knew I would want to remember. Pink is God, green is nature, and purple is love. So ones that I wanted to highlight in those categories. Most of them are nature focused. So I really love the poetry in this. So I am actually very excited to finish this. I also saw this. We went to Powell's Books. Not the giant one. There is, okay, Powell's Bookstore in Portland is like the most magical place ever. It takes up a whole city block, and it's like 4 stories of books, and it's a fantastic place to be. I love being in there, but here's the issue. It's in downtown Portland. It's street parking. I'm not good at parallel parking. That's something I can admit about myself. I'm not good at parallel parking, and downtown Portland is not always the safest place to be. So if I'm going with my children, like for Mother's Day, we were with our kids, I don't want to go into Portland with my kids just because I want to be very, very safe, and Portland is not always very, very safe. So, you know, I don't always love going to that location, even though that location is magical. However, they have another location in Beaverton, which is right next to Portland, and that one has a giant parking lot and is so easy to park and so easily accessible. So that's the one that we go to. It's not too far away from us. It's easier to get to. It's easier to park. It's easier to have our kids with us there. And they still have a really great selection. So what was the whole point of that? The whole point of that was to tell you that I was at Powell's the other day when I was getting the Antidote and Grapes of Wrath for Mother's Day. And I saw this, and it had one of those Read with Jenna like printed on stickers. And I was like, hallelujah, I bought that book before it has that atrocious sticker on it. No offense to Jenna, Read with Jenna, but who does that? Who prints on a sticker? Ugh, I hate it. All of us hate that, right? We all hate it. Why do they do that? They know we all hate it. Anyway. So I'm glad I have this copy where the lovely picture of the bird is not impeded by a Read with Jenna sticker. Look at the little bird. Anyway, so that's the TBR for this video. And then I'll probably make another video sometime soon, maybe this year, maybe not, I don't know, reading the other ones. That's the TBR. I actually do not have any time to read right now. I have to go get my husband from work very soon. But I'll have a lot of time to read tomorrow because I have to do IV hydration treatments once a week. And so that's basically like 2 hours of me sitting there. So I'll bring one of these books along with me, and we'll go from there. I'll check in with you at some point. Okay, the lighting in here sucks because I'm in the parking garage. I just got to the hospital to do my IV treatment. So I have my tote bag. I brought the antidote with me. So, did I already get something on it? Bruh. I always take the dust jackets off because I hate reading with a dust jacket on. But yeah, the cover did get stuff on it already. Probably from my children. I have no idea. That would be my guess. So yeah, I got here awkwardly, like kind of early, but I guess I'll just head over and get hooked up, get hydrated. So I'll check in with you and tell you how many pages I read. I haven't started it yet, so I'll tell you how many pages I read while I'm in there because I'll be in there for like 2 hours. So. Okay, so I have been back from my IV therapy for a little while. I had some lunch. Let's see, I read just a little bit. I read 62 pages. Honestly, I was having a really hard time focusing in there because there's like a lot more people in there today than there were last time I was there. And yeah, it was just kind of hard to like get into a groove of reading. But I am very intrigued so far. So we are getting a couple of different perspectives. The first one is the Prairie Witch, like we talked about in the synopsis, and I really like her sections because they are addressed to her baby that was taken from her. When she was a teenager, she was pregnant and in a home for unwed mothers, and they took the baby, said the baby died, and she doesn't believe that, and so all of her sections are addressed to her son, and so I enjoy that. And then basically how it works is that people tell her their secrets or like something they want off their chest, their anxieties, their worries, and she's like in a trance, and so they call her a vault. So it's like vaulted within her and she doesn't know the secret, but it's in her body. Anyway, so that's kind of how her magic works. And so you're following that perspective. And you're also following a farmer named Harp and his niece named Dell. And her mother, his sister, was murdered, and so now she is under the care of him. And basically, we're starting out with Black Sunday. So, which if you don't know what Black Sunday is, maybe you don't. In the 1930s, what year was it that it happened? 1935, there was a huge dust storm, and they call it Black Sunday because it was like a blackout. There was so much dust. During this kind of Dust Bowl era, there was a lot of problems with soil erosion, and so there were a lot of dust storms. And I find the descriptions so far of like the dust storms and the dust are so vivid, and just something about this period of time really intrigues me. I think that started with Grapes of Wrath I mentioned that I got. Grapes of Wrath was one of my favorite books last year, and that book follows a family who is moving to California to try and kind of escape the Dust Bowl from the Midwest. And so it's just a really fascinating time, and crazy to think that something like that even happened, and that there was so much dust. Like, one thing that it talks about is like there was so much dust that this couple was driving along the highway and they got out of their car and they died. They suffocated in 5 feet of dust, and people had to wear like wet bandanas over their faces to be able to breathe, and like try and put newspapers and tape and stuff over their windows and any cracks of their house to try not to get dust in their house so they could breathe correctly, and babies and the elderly getting dust pneumonia. So it's kind of a bleak time and a bit of a bleak story so far. I don't know if it's going to stay that way, but I think the writing is great, and I'm very interested in each perspective and seeing how things go. Definitely some sad things, particularly with the Prairie Witch. The idea of her baby being taken away from her is something that really hits me hard. I'm a mom. I have 2 little kids. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and the idea of either of my babies being taken from me is just awful. So that hits deep. So anyway, I have a few things to get done. Got to take my husband to a doctor appointment in a little bit, so I don't know how much more I'm gonna read today. And I have a baby shower to go to tonight for a friend of mine, which is really exciting. I'm really excited for her. So my evening will be kind of taken up with that. So I don't know how much more I'm going to be able to read today, but I am happy that I'm making this video and jumping into this book and getting to it, because I was kind of like, oh, I need to finish. I was reading The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, and I got 500 pages in, and I was like, I need to stop reading this. And I'm gonna try the audiobook. So don't come for me if you love Brandon Sanderson. I just don't see why it needed to be that long. Like, I read 500 pages and I was like, nothing's happened. So I just needed to get out of that book for a while, and I'm glad that I hopped into this because I'm finding it a lot more interesting. So yeah, I'll check in with you maybe halfway through, maybe when I finish, depending on how quickly I finish it, and we'll go from there. Hello. I am sitting at my new desk. I'm so excited about this. Well, it's not new. It's new to me. So let me take you on a journey. I'll talk about reading in a minute. If you don't care about any of this, you can skip ahead, I guess. I didn't get that much reading done on Saturday because I convinced my husband to, well, I didn't necessarily convince my husband to take me to IKEA. I said, I want to get new stuff for our room because we don't have very good storage. And then I was just kind of sad. And then he was like, okay, let's go to IKEA. So, Husband of the Year award goes to him. Anyway, so we got some dressers at IKEA. I'll show you them in a second. And then we brought this desk in from our goat shed. There's no goats in there, but the previous owners had goats in there. I have no idea how long this was outside. It was so disgusting and so full of spiders. I don't want to think about the amount of spiders that I touched yesterday cleaning this thing. I just like swept it and then cleaned it with soap and water, and eventually it would be good to sand it down and restain it and then like do a coat of polyurethane. Let me show you it. This is what it looks like. Isn't it beautiful? I really love it. I think it's so, I love these knobs, and I love how many drawers there are. It's very old. I don't know how old it is. I don't know if, sorry, now I'm backlit. Oh, okay. Now I'm in front of my closet, so you get my clothes as a backdrop. I don't know if the previous owners built it or bought it or how old it is, but it feels old. The drawers feel old. I gotta figure out some way to make the drawer opening and closing a little bit better. Maybe that will happen when I sand it down eventually. But I'll just take you off the tripod and kind of show you like what our setup of our room is now. Okay, so we got these drawers to use as our side tables. There's my son's baby blessing outfit. I need to put it somewhere. So we have these as our side tables now, which I really like because before we had the bookcase over there, which was fine, but it definitely, I feel like, made this side of the room feel smaller, and now you can actually see all of the leaves that I painted on the wall. They're not like covered up anymore. I also need to like put one in that corner because now it feels really empty. So I love having a larger side table and then nice drawers. And then we have the desk in front of the window, and then the bookcase is kind of shoved back in the corner. That's my mirror. My pants are drying on it right now because it was raining earlier, so I didn't want to put them outside. The bookcase is kind of shoved in the corner because we're going to put these up, these floating shelves. Originally, we were going to have these little small shelves be the nightstands, but then we were like, those are too small. That's the room setup. So I was like rearranging everything, moving very large, heavy furniture because we had like an armoire in the corner there, and it's extremely heavy. I wasn't moving it. My husband and my father-in-law moved it. But like, you know, getting everything out of it, and our bed was just like full of crap, and then like, you know, figuring out what I'm putting in the drawers and trying to move them over really quick, and then our kids woke up halfway through, and so we're like trying to keep them entertained and also like out of all the stuff that was everywhere. So I didn't get a ton of reading done. Kind of that was like Saturday and yesterday that we were like getting this haul set up and stuff. But last night we stayed up way too late, went to bed at like 11 p.m. and I did get some reading done. So now I am a little bit further in than last time I talked to you. I think I was like 60 pages in. Now I'm 160 pages in. So I read 100 more pages last night. I am really enjoying this book. I really want to know what's going to happen, where it's going. There's definitely some really sad things in here. But something I really love about it is that there's photographs. Let me show you on some of the like chapter beginnings. There's photographs, and they're like real photographs of people in the 1930s. And so then we're also kind of getting a new perspective from a photographer who is in their town. Oh, like here's an example of one. So that is a photograph from the 1930s. Isn't that cool? I am one of those people who, like, you could take me to a museum that's just like a small town museum, and it's just full of like really random weird stuff from like the 1800s and the early 1900s, and would be really entertained. I just find, I don't know, I've always found history really interesting, and I just like looking into like the way people lived because it's so removed from my experience. Like, I don't know anything about what it would be like to live in Nebraska during the Dust Bowl. And so reading about it, I'm like, this is really cool. And like, of course that applies to like, I would love to read about other countries that I don't know anything about and stuff like that too. I think that that's a good reason to read diversely, just because like then you learn a lot, which is a good thing. Knowledge is good. Here's another photo. This one is kind of a sad one. It's a bunny of jackrabbits getting beaten to death. Which like the very first little section is about that, and I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so that's my update for reading. I haven't read anything from the other two books. I think I'm gonna read them one at a time, but maybe I should start reading some Mary Oliver throughout, just because like poems are easy to read, but also you don't necessarily want to just sit down and read an entire book of poems in one sitting. Like for me personally, I feel like I like to like savor them a little bit more. So anyway, I think I have around 45 minutes before my kids wake up, allegedly. That's where I'm at. My camera's gonna die, so I'm gonna stop yapping and start reading. And I probably won't check in with you again until the book is finished, just because like I don't know what more there would be to say unless I'm spoiling things for you, which I don't want to spoil things. So I'll check in with you when I finish the antidote. Okay, I have officially finished The Antidote by Karen Russell, and I'm going to give this 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. I think this book is a really interesting blend of like almost speculative, like there's some fantastical elements to it while still being historical and kind of giving you some very important and interesting historical context to like this time in this area. There were some really great conversations about Native Americans and how they were treated and how they were pushed out of their land. There's really interesting conversations in here because 2 of the main characters, Harp Oletsky and his niece Dell, are Polish. His father was from Poland, came to America. And so there's really interesting conversations about, you know, the Polish were pushed out by the Germans. They came to America and in turn pushed out the Native Americans. So just kind of that cycle and how that worked and all of that. I found it really, really interesting. And then I really liked kind of the weirdness that came into it. I wasn't expecting it, and I was really pleasantly surprised by that because, you know, I love a weird book. But it doesn't get too weird. Like if you're like, oh, I don't like weird stuff though, I still would recommend reading this because it's not so crazy, but it's just kind of like a little strange. So I really enjoyed this. I thought there were some really meaningful conversations. I think also all the conversations around the main character, the antidote, the Prairie Witch, and her experience in living in a house for unwed mothers and the way that these poor girls were treated. As said in the back here, the Milford Industrial Home for Unwed Mothers operated from 1889 to 1954. It was the first such state-funded institution in the country. As many as 4,000 babies may have been born there, as part of the home's original mission was to facilitate adoptions. But of course, that's not always what happened, and the young girls that were there were often treated very, very horribly. Obviously, teen pregnancy is never an easy thing, and usually not a good situation to be in, just because often teenagers aren't prepared to have a baby. But I just can't imagine ever treating a pregnant woman, let alone a pregnant 15-year-old, the way that these women were treated. It's just awful. So I would just be aware that maybe that's like a trigger warning for you, that these women were treated really, really poorly, and there are some very in-depth discussions about that. There's also some sexual content that I could have gone without. It was fairly easy to just kind of skip over. My personal preference, if you haven't been here before, if you don't know, I don't like reading smut or sexual content in any way. So I try to avoid it, and if it's in a book like this, I try to just kind of skim over it. That's my personal preference. So that's The Antidote by Karen Russell. I am really glad that I read this. Was one of my most anticipated books of the year, and I think that it definitely lived up to that. And even though it wasn't a 5-star for me, I think it was a high 4. Like, it really was really well written, very interesting. I liked that you got a lot of different perspectives, because there's kind of like the main 3 throughout the book, which is the Prairie Witch, Harp Aletsky, and his niece Dell. But then you also get, you know, some other random perspectives that I really enjoyed. So that's The Antidote by Karen Russell. I'm so glad I read this, and I'm glad I bought it because I do think it was worth it. There's nothing worse than buying a book and then hating it, because then you wasted your money and your time. Okay, so now I have these ones to read. I think I'm going to read some from both of them. Like, I'm not just going to finish one and then start another. I think I'll do a little bit of both, because they're different enough that I'm not going to get, like, confused, you know. But they also are similar in the sense that they're both about nature in a lot of ways. So that's very fun. Anyway, so I'm going to do that. I've just been relaxing. We went to the zoo this morning, which was very fun. We went with our friends, our play group that we hang out with once a week, and we had a great time. We love going to the zoo, but it is very exhausting, and the Oregon Zoo, which is in Portland, is like somehow all uphill. Like, it just feels like you're constantly walking uphill, and so I am sleepy. I'm really tired from that. So I'm just gonna lay on this bed and do some reading and relax for a while before I gotta get up and do more things. Okay, I am now about halfway through An Immense World. I did decide to pick up the audiobook, and I don't think that's cheating for this particular TBR. I don't think it's cheating anyway, because, like, why would that be a thing? But I really wanted to be able to spend more time reading this, and I also had some other work I needed to get done. So I was like, let me see if the library has it. It did have it available. So yeah, I really like listening to nonfiction on audio, because I feel like I retain a lot of the information better when I'm listening to it, specifically for nonfiction. And it is narrated by the author, and he's doing a fantastic job. And I'm really loving this book. I'm finding so interesting. There's a lot of really cool stuff in here. I don't even know if did I even introduce what this is about? This is about animal senses. How animal senses reveal the hidden realms around us. And so each chapter is about, like, a different sense. So, like, the first one is about smell, and then it went into sight, color, pain, and it just talks about all sorts of different animals and how they feel things. I just barely finished the pain section, and I found that very interesting, because it's an interesting moral question of, do animals feel pain, especially if you're talking about eating animals, or like fishing, for example. Do fish feel pain? And the short answer is we don't know, because it's really hard to tell what an animal is feeling, and even though an animal might display behaviors that to us look like pain, that doesn't necessarily mean they're feeling pain. And he was saying there's a difference between pain and, what was the other thing? Nociceptors. So nociceptors are like his example was, if you touch a hot pan, you'll immediately jerk back, and then you'll feel pain, and the sense of jerking your hand back is a nociceptor. That's what's telling your brain that's going to cause pain. And so he was saying, like, when it comes to animals, it's a lot easier to track the nociceptors than it is to track pain. So I found that really interesting. Also, he gave a lovely little shout out to women who have chronic illnesses. Shout out to me. And how we're often very dismissed because people don't think that we would be in pain all the time. So I thought that was just, you know, a lovely little shout out from Ed. Thank you, Ed. I'm loving this. I think this is going to be a 5-star for me. I find it's really interesting, but then he's also funny, and gives lots of really cool examples. He talks to a lot of different scientists in a lot of different areas. And yeah, I think I should read his other book too. What's his other book called? Where did I see? Oh, I see. I see what's here. On this it says winner of the Pulitzer Prize, which also good for him. That's really awesome. And on the audiobook cover it says Pulitzer Prize winning author of I Contain Multitudes. That's his other book. So I definitely will pick that up, I think. So anyway, all of that was to tell you that I'm absolutely loving this and I haven't read any poetry. What time is it? I keep looking over there because my alarm clock used to be on my bookshelf or on our like wardrobe thing over there, and now the alarm clock is right there. But it is also covered up by a bunch of my husband's stuff. 3:07. Okay. Maybe I'll read like a couple of poems, like 2 poems. And then I gotta go. Gotta go get my husband from work. But perhaps I can convince my children that we can listen to an audiobook in the car. My kids often really only allow me to listen to music or talk to someone on the phone, but they really don't like podcasts or audiobooks most of the time. Sometimes I can get them to listen to audiobooks. Sorry, something felt itchy on me and there was a spider that crawled across my desk a few minutes ago because we did bring this in from outside and I cleaned it really thoroughly, but like I feel like there's still some spiders living in there, which I don't love. But anyway, then I felt something itch me and I was like, ah, what is it? Is it a spider? Anyway, I don't think this video is going to be up by tomorrow. We'll see. I doubt it. But I also have my infusion again tomorrow and I should be able to get a lot of reading done during that. So anyway, you should read this. It's very fascinating. You'll learn a lot of really cool things. I'll check in with you when I have finished it. And hopefully I read some more of that poetry collection. Hi. Sorry my hair is kind of crazy. I've been outside working, just planted our garden, which is really exciting. It's really exciting. Hopefully it goes well. Hopefully things grow nicely. But I just planted a bunch of seeds and my body hurts. I'm really tired now. But I finished Immense World and I haven't finished this, but I'm gonna talk to you about it. Let's start with the Mary Oliver devotions. Technically, I have this much left, which is like 100 pages, which reads very quickly with poetry. But I am going to end the video now instead of completely finishing it because I can tell you without reading those 100 pages that this is going to be a 5-star read for me because I love this poetry. I really, really do. I really love these poems. I love the subject matter. So much of it is just like really reflective descriptions of nature, in the sense that a lot of it is like her talking about nature, looking at nature and saying, you know, like, what a beautiful world we live in. How lucky we are to be here. How can you not be happy when you see these things? And not in like a don't be depressed way, but in like a wow, we should be grateful for this way. So I really love that. Okay, I'll read you one. This is called With Thanks to the Field Sparrow, whose voice is so delicate and humble. I do not live happily or comfortably with the cleverness of our times. The talk is all about computers. The news is all about bombs and blood. This morning in the fresh field, I came upon a hidden nest. It held 4 warm speckled eggs. I touched them, then went away softly, having felt more wonderful than all the electricity of New York City. So that's just like kind of an example of the type of vibe that this is. I really love this. This is 5 stars for me. I will read the rest of them, but I want to get this video out, so that's why I'm going to leave the review here. I definitely want to read more. Devotions is a collection of her other collections. So, like there's like sections. I'll show you what it looks like. So, this says, From Why I Wake Early, which was written in 2004. So, like, each little section will tell you which poetry collection that it's from. So, you know, I don't know how worth it is to like go read all of the collections individually if this is like a all of them together, but I don't think every single poem from each collection is included in this. I think it's like selected poems from each collection. So anyway, I really love this. I want to read more poetry because I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this. So if you have any poetry suggestions for me, let me know. And preferably make them about nature because I really like nature poetry apparently. Okay, now we can talk about An Immense World by Ed Yong, which I did finish. And I'm also giving 5 stars. Hallelujah! This video is honestly such a success for me. I guess it goes to show that maybe I'm great at buying books. Or really, I'm just pretty picky about which books I buy. So basically, I don't think I ever gave you kind of a synopsis of what this book is, but it deals with animal senses, and there's a concept in here called Umwelt. I wonder if I tabbed a little tiny bit in the beginning and then decided I didn't want to do that anymore. Okay, here is the definition. An Umwelt is specifically the part of those surroundings that an animal can sense and experience, its perceptual world. So it basically talks about a bunch of different animals' Umwelts. Each chapter is about a different type of sense, which I think I told you about before. So like there's a chapter for like seeing, vision, echolocation, electric fields, all sorts of things. So I really, really enjoy this. I loved learning about all these different types of animals and how they use their senses, and there's just like so many really cool, fun facts in here that just made me want to learn more. I told my husband while reading this, I was like, maybe in another life I was a zoologist, because this was just so fascinating to me, and I really loved learning about all of these different animals. And kind of the last 2 chapters, the second to last chapter was like talking about how it's important to remember when studying an animal that even if one sense is at the forefront, they still use all of the senses that they have. And so kind of like nothing exists in a vacuum, basically. Like you can study these things and try and figure out why something happens the way that it does, but you do still also have to remember that like they also have other senses. And then the last chapter was all about light and sound pollution created by humans, and basically what can we do to support the animal kingdom when it comes to light and sound specifically. Obviously other types of pollution are very bad as well, but light and sound is something that's much more controllable and doesn't have lingering effects, right? Like when you turn a light off, it's off. But if you throw plastic into the ocean, then that's going to have lingering effects for a long time, right? So basically he's talking about like, what can we do with the things that we can do right now to reduce sound and light pollution to support the animal kingdom. Yeah, I found this really interesting. I would love to read more about his other books. I guess he has one about microbiomes, which I think sounds pretty interesting. So yes, let me grab the other book. That leaves us with The Antidote at 4 stars, An Immense World at 5 stars, and Devotions at 5 stars. I am so glad I got to these books. I really, really enjoyed my reading experience with them, and hopefully the next time I do this video it'll be just as successful. So thank you for being here. Let me know what you think of these books, if you've read them, if you want to read them, if you have books you've read that are similar to them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!